And this afternoon, the Attorney General is firing back at the powerful politicians making prejudicial comments on sensitive criminal cases, indicating that it is piling unnecessary pressure on the courts. His comment is coming after the likes of President Akufo-Addo, former President John Dramani Mahama, and recently Osagyefo Osadeyo Ajimambedu the second, making some comments on the James Gyakye Quayson trial. The Minister of Justice, Godfred Yeboadami, says their speeches exceed the bounds of acceptable speech and belittles the hard work of prosecutors. We'll be getting you the reactions of legal experts on this matter. But first, let's get a sense of what the statement from the Attorney General is indicating. There you have it, portions on your screens, titled "The Unjustified Commentary About Pending Criminal and Other Cases and Attacks on the State of Attorneys." You have the Office of the Attorney General indicating that it has observed with serious concerns the increased tendency for various persons, including members of the legal profession, of considerable standing, to run extremely prejudicial commentary on cases pending before the courts. It goes ahead to indicate that cases which have been subject of unwarranted public commentary include, but are not limited to, the Republic versus James Gyakye Quayson. We also have the Republic versus Dr. Stephen Opuni, which is also a burning matter, and the minority leader is equally standing trial. That case as well is increasingly becoming of concern to the general public, which the Attorney General believes commentary around it is not helpful. So the explanation is first as follows: that whilst respecting the freedom of all persons in Ghana to comment on any matter, including cases pending before the court, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice takes note that much of the recent commentary on many of the so-called high-profile criminal cases transgresses permissible limits of free speech, unduly interfering with the work of the state prosecutors, performing their constitutional function of prosecuting crime in Ghana, and tends to put unnecessary pressure on the courts. Then the statement goes ahead to indicate that the Attorney General respectfully is reminding Ghanaians of the principle of the equality of all persons before the law enshrined in Article 17 of the Constitution, that no person living in Ghana, citizen, non-citizen, is above the laws of the country or immune from any sort of application of same. And the Attorney General goes on and on to express his displeasure about how these conducts are affecting the delivery of justice. Well, the details of the statement and matter for you shortly. But first, the man, Gyakye Quayson, became the first to take the oath of office twice in just one term, when he was sworn into office as Member of Parliament for Assin North for the second time today. Here are excerpts of what transpired.
To administer the oaths, starting with the oath of allegiance. Second time. You've been here before, so you know the drill. So I start. I, James Gyakye Quayson, do in the name of the Almighty God swear
that I will bear true faith and allegiance.
Do in the name of the Almighty God swear.
Do in the name of the Almighty God swear.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance.
To the Republic of Ghana.
To the Republic of Ghana.
As by law established.
As the law established.
That I will uphold the sovereignty and integrity of Ghana.
That I will uphold the sovereignty and integrity of Ghana.
And that I will preserve.
And that I will preserve.
Protect. And defend the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana.
And defend the Constitution and the Republic of Ghana.
So help me God.
So help me God.
We now of a member of parliament,
I, James Gyakye Quayson,
having been elected a member of parliament, do in the name of the Almighty God swear that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Republic of Ghana, as by law established, that I will uphold, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, and that I will faithfully and conscientiously discharge the duties of a member of parliament. So help me God. Honorable members, congratulations.
Thank you.
On behalf of the Parliament of Ghana and the 275 members, I offer you the essential tools of your work: the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana and the standing orders of the Parliament of Ghana. Every day you are going to your farm, you must have your cutlass or your hoe to go to work.
That's right.
Today, I will start observing you.
Thank you.
Whether when you are on the floor here, you have these tools to work with.
Thank you.
And so on behalf of the House, I hand them over to you. The Honorable James Quayson Gyakye. I welcome him to the House and to draw his attention that this is a very, very important role he's going to play. But before I continue, it's important that I invite the leaders of the House to also add some words of congratulation to the honorable member on his election and how they intend
Well, except of what transpired moments ago, the majority leader had some brief words for the newly sworn-in member of parliament.
I believe the NDC want to believe that what victory that our colleague has chalked, and indeed we must congratulate him. The NDC want to believe that this is a peak victory that would hurt the pride of the MPP, as the minority leader has alluded to. Of course, on the other hand, we, the party of the NDC, also believe that this is a victory of phantasmal character that certainly may not last. But, Mr. Speaker, the choice of the people of Assin North, and we must, everybody must. The rest of it is in the hands of the Attorney General. Mr. Speaker, the rest of it, to move from here, is in the hands of the Attorney General. Whilst he remains here, we can only embrace him as a member of Parliament, coming here to be a part of the fraternity whilst it lasts.
Well, the statement there by Majority Leader Chairman Zabunsu. But what's the future looking like for this Assin North Member of Parliament? because there's a pending trial in court. And also, what's the implication for the House as a whole? I want to bring in two gentlemen helping us to do the discussion this afternoon. Samuel Bing is the Executive Director for the Parliamentary Network Africa. We also do have Diama Adi, a lawyer with the Center for Social Justice, joining us via Zoom. Thank you, gentlemen, for spending some time with us. Let's get a brief update of what's happening in the House. Parliamentary correspondent Gyakye Quayson has been monitoring developments and is bringing us updates as we speak now. We know that after the swearing in, of course, James Gyakye Quayson proceeded to court. What's happening and what transpired in the House today, and what's been the reaction from his colleagues on that?
Minority MPs are really excited that finally James Gyakye Quayson has been able to take his seat in Parliament. It's been a long, drawn legal battle that started from the High Court, went to the Supreme Court, and for a little over a year, James Gyakye Quayson was injuncted, and finally his seat was declared vacant. Today, he was sworn in as Member of Parliament, and his MPs are and his colleagues are very excited. All of them came in wearing white, enjoying and seasoning the moment. Former President John Dramani Mahama, National Chairman of the NDC, everyone being here. But in particular, the biggest standout of the reactions that we have seen so far is that statement by the minority leader, Dr. Kiselatu Forsen, that the NDC will not cooperate with government if these criminal charges against James Gyakye Quayson are not dropped. The traditional authorities who also came in from Assin Breku also added their voice that the MP must be allowed to continue doing his job on the floor of Parliament without those legal back and forth. And so the situation now is going to take shape. We expect that the majority leader, who's also the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, is going to lead talks some way, somehow, to ensure that these conversations are had with government to see if these charges could be dropped. Already, the Domahini has made a comment. The member for the former minister for the former Attorney General, I should say, Gyakye Quayson, has also added his voice. The minority are saying the same thing. The chiefs and traditional authorities in Assin Breku are making the same point. So it is now, the ball is now in the court of the Attorney General and the President to not take a decision as to whether or not against James Gyakye Quayson will be dropped or not.
And then he proceeded to court today afterwards?
That is the indication we had. The indication was that James Gyakye Quayson was going to go to court today. But because I was focused on other business in the House, I cannot confirm if he's able to do so. But the minority had threatened that as soon as he left to go to court, they would have all gone with him. But some of them are still on the floor of Parliament, including the Chief Whip himself, which presupposes that he might not have gone that, but would have to run a few checks to confirm the court appearance. But the warning is clear that anytime James Gyakye Quayson is expected to be in Parliament, is expected to be in court, all 137 of them, 136, I should say, will join him to go mental business with Sabah.
I see. Parliamentary correspondent Gyakye Quayson joining us with the latest there. Let me hear from you, Samuel Bing, on, first of all, the decision to swear in James Gyakye Quayson, even as his court case is far from over. You feel the Speaker is compelled by the standing orders of the House?
Well, not only the standing orders, Blessed, but also the constitution of the land. A new member of Parliament has been elected. There's been communication from the Electoral Commission to the Speaker. The procedure follows, almost automatically that the new member of Parliament will have to be sworn in.
And if that's the case, we're looking at what possibly might be the implication for the House. You have the minority leader indicating now that each time James Gyakye Quayson is expected to appear before the courts, all 136, 137 MPs on the NDC side would have to leave the House, join him in court. Is that absurd?
Well, I found that quite unfortunate. I think that it is important that whereas the minority side solidarizes with their colleague in court, it doesn't affect, public and private business on the floor of Parliament. It is important to note that members of Parliament on a daily basis, discharge different duties on the floor of Parliament. There is the bit about members of Parliament who have questions regarding, happening in the members of parliament, having questions regarding happenings in the constituencies that they represent. So issues relating to electricity, water, school infrastructure, and what have you. These questions, a lot of them have been programmed, some of them in the name of minority MPs. There are times when MPs present statements. There are consideration of very important bills in the House. And I think that it will be quite unfortunate if the minority indicates that because of the trial with, ongoing Mr. Quayson, they would, leave all of these very important businesses that they've got to conduct for and on behalf of their people simply to go solidarize with him.
This is indirectly piling pressure on the Attorney General to withdraw the case.
Well, I think that we live in a dispensation of the rule of law. I believe that members of parliament, are not as stopped as members of the minority from solidarizing with their colleague, from doing what is legally permissible to ensure that they are supporting their colleague. But in the end, I really think that the wheels of the law must take its due course in a way that is fair, just, in a way that ensures that the member of parliament also is not unnecessarily distracted from the work that he has to do in parliament.
Okay. Well, we also have Niamati who's on with us, and the aspects of the law has come up, and the threats we're seeing from the minority side of the House, threatening that, well, they'll move away from Parliament, join James Gyakye Quayson in court. Will it help everybody if we have the Attorney General withdraw the case? Is that as simple as we say it? Because this case is already being heard. What will it take to perhaps withdraw the case, first of all?
Yes, the common law as given to us, and as we have it, emanated from the church. From the church. So, we used to call it the canonical order. And in that stead, we say that the voice of the people is the voice of God. And therefore, if the voice of the people is the voice of God, and all the people are saying from all different facets of life, chiefs, the clergy, the politicians, and everybody is saying that, look, the Gyakye Quayson case must be discontinued. Why don't we want to say it as the voice of God?
So where lies the rule of law, by the way?
Yes, the rule of law would have to be, but it is not for nothing that we have what we call the noli prosequi, meaning that the Attorney General decides to discontinue the case. Mm-hmm. Because if the evidence out there, if the jury out there is so loud and clear that, look, what we're pursuing will not inure to the benefit of the growth of our democracy, then it makes common sense to say that let's discontinue. Because I think that Gyakye Quayson has fulfilled all legal processes. What was brought against it, the reason for which he is being tried, we all can look back and say that, no, probably what you say they err. That be the case, we've gone into a by-election. He has won again. The people have spoken loud and very clear. It is not wrong at all if the Attorney General decides to discontinue. It is never wrong in law. It is never wrong in law.
But is it as simple as you're saying it?
Oh, it's as simple as it is, that you don't owe any explanation. To say that the Attorney General has filed a noli prosequi to discontinue the case must not necessarily come with any reason. He decided to discontinue the case. That's all. And because, you see, we have to nurture this democracy to grow. And where we stand now, it's a test for our democracy, okay? And if we don't tread cautiously, we might be forced into taking decisions that would affect the gains that we have had since 1992. In any case, if you want to hold anything wrong against Gyakye Quayson, then the best example is what the president expressed in his pre-judicial statement in Assin North. Okay? If we accept that the president made a pre-judicial statement, which is not what it's supposed to be, In same vein, we can accept that, yeah, we discontinue. Because we've seen wrong in everything. Because if you don't do that, then we're likely to have people thinking, because of the presidency, have people thinking that this thing is being pursued, Honorable Gyakye Quayson is being pursued to a certain decision which has been prejudiced. And that is not where we want to get to, because it spoils the beauty of our democracy.
Okay.
I think if you go out there and you speak to everybody, we can put the legal aside. People will tell you that it's okay. The man has renounced his dual citizenship. It's gone into a by-election. It's won with a wider majority than it used to be before. So it's okay. Let him continue. And I don't see anything wrong with it.
Okay, what I want us to do now, gentlemen, before I bring you back into the conversation, is to have a sense of what transpired in court today. Richard Kojinyako, you were there for us today. James Gyakye Quayson, right after being sworn in, appeared in court, correct?
Yes, he appeared in court. He did not come to court, actually, but his lawyers were in court today. And the first to speak was his lawyer, Chachuchi Kata, who said that Mr. James Gyakye Quayson is unavailable because he is on a national assignment. And this was supported by the state prosecutors. And they said that, well, indeed he has a national assignment, and so they cannot be grudging. And so they wanted to slate the day for the hearing to the next day. But Mr. Chachuchi Kata indicated that they had some processes to file at the Supreme Court. Hence, they cannot do that tomorrow. And the judge came in and said that indeed the court has received some document from the Speaker of Parliament indicating that Mr. Quayson will be unavailable for today's trial. And so we have been speaking with counsel, one of the counsels for Mr. James Gyakye Quayson, Abraham Abaliba.
So we are going to argue the motion out. Don't forget that today will have been the arguments, but this has been adjourned to the SIF. We intend to put in a strong case. We are not afraid of the trial. What we don't want is for the state to use its might to re-rule the process so that our client will go to jail. We want the processes to be fair. We are not saying that we won't come and stand trial, but for the daily hearings, that is what we are against. And no criminal in this country, an accused person rather, has been brought to court every day. Why should he be Quayson? And so that's what we are against. The Attorney General does not understand his role. His role as an Attorney General is to prosecute on behalf of the Republic. And the people of this country are the custodians of the sovereignty. So if a Ghanaian feels that it's a complete waste of time to continue prosecuting the MP-elects and voices out that the Attorney General should use his power of knowledge, I don't see anything wrong with that. And we the people, it's not the Attorney General. We gave the Attorney General that power, and we are saying that exercises in this way, the Attorney General cannot be complaining. That power belongs to us. And so the Domahine was right and spot on. He got support from no less a person than a former Attorney General, Gyakye Quayson. And I think that this is how we should all look at it. I disagree with Senior Sam Okujeto, who thinks that his opinion is law. And for that matter, some people should be hauled to the General Legal Council. He himself, as he uses one finger to point at the Domahine, 5 are pointing at him. He has done more harm than good when this matter came to court.
Okay, so what next will happen, knowing that the Speaker has officially written to the court on this matter and there may be further processes?
Well, so we have been speaking with the Deputy Attorney General, and he indicated that, well, no one can fault them for following the law because it is a criminal trial and they need to follow it to the letter no matter the criticisms that people will bring.
Yes, as we indicated in court, truly, Mr. Quayson is today on the national assignment. He's being sworn in. Unlike the other time that he said he was on national assignment, that we disputed. We don't dispute it. Being a member of Parliament is a national assignment that he's undertaken. I think the judge also made it known to us that the Speaker of Parliament had written a letter to the court. We went through the letter and we have the considered view that the request for an adjournment is in the right direction. So that's how come we never opposed the request for an adjournment.
Do you harbor any fears that this may become a norm in this particular trial?
We hope it does not become a norm. You may be an MP, that's all right. But if you have a matter in court, you must also be in court. Because you have two arms of government, the legislature, in fact, the two arms, the legislature and then the judiciary. If you have an assignment to perform in parliament, you do it. If you have an assignment or a duty to also perform in the court, you also do it. You cannot say because you have an assignment in parliament all the time, the court should not go on dealing with these matters. That would not be proper.
Your office has reacted to comments that have been made with respect to such of these cases, but directly we did not see a comment to the call for you to enter a nolle prosequi. Is that to say that you are not considering that?
You see, when it comes to prosecution of matters, there should be no attempt to stampede attorneys from discharging their legitimate duties. As to whether an MP may be entered or not, it's a sacred duty of the Attorney General. And he takes a decision, he need not consider any other input from others by looking at the surface of the case. So we've issued a statement and we stand by that statement.
Okay, no definite decision as to whether or not the nolle prosequi will be entered by the Attorney General. Richard Kojina, thank you for giving us some updates there. But it's the reason why I want to hear from you, Sammy Obeng, the possibility of having the Speaker always writing to the court, or perhaps assigning James Gyakye Quayson at this time to some parliamentary duties for, quote, a very long time. That will be injurious to the Attorney General's attempt to get him behind bars.
Well, we hope that, just as I have said, that it would be problematic to have the Attorney General use the courts to deliberately frustrate the work of Mr. Quayson as a member of Parliament. I really also would not find it proper if, the scenario that you have cited, plays out. It is our hope that, Mr. Quayson will be able to play his role effectively as a member of Parliament in the same way, be able to, attend to the courts and vigorously defend his case so that this thing can be over and done with. Because the earlier we get over and done with, the better it will be for all of us.
There's the legal aspect to this and there's the politics to this. You had Amaliba talk there, lawyer Abraham Amaliba talk there about the will of the people. And of course, it's come up in the conversation, the Domahini and his point about the masses supporting James Gyakye Quayson. In fact, he got higher votes than he got in the last election. Is that a signal enough for you to say, well, the people want him, so let's withdraw the case?
Well, do the people of Assin North really truly want Mr. Gyakye Quayson? Yes, they do. They voted massively for him. They want him to represent them in Parliament. Has Mr. Quayson been charged for a crime? Yes, he has. But of course, he is innocent until proven guilty. I think that it is important that we do not also blur the lines between, people facing trial and then people also doing their legitimate duty. What some of us will certainly stand against is when, such court cases are being used as a tool to score cheap political points. That certainly must not happen. But
we're dealing with politicians here, and that's why I'm asking the question. Because, for instance, as a member of Parliament, I guess the mode of serving him with any other criminal procedure will now change, having been officially sworn into the House.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, and this is not the first time that we have it. In fact, the ultimate leader of the minority bench is also in court. There are some members of Parliament in the past and even at present who stand various, trials in court. And so we have always known what the position and the stance of Parliament is regarding these matters. All I'm saying is that we must not get to the point where politicians and politics is being used as a tool to kind of create some, difficulty between these very important arms of government in executing their respective responsibilities.
And for those of you who believe in parliamentary democracy, the aim is not always to fight each other in the House. Consensus building is very much required for the passage of laws, for parliamentary duty, and for ensuring that our democracy is, very smooth. Do you feel that, given the way James Gyakye Quayson was treated, he's been radicalized now, as some feel he will be?
Well, when it comes to radicalization, especially if you're asking it in the context of how he would or would not cooperate with the majority side in Parliament on parliamentary business, I don't really think that it is just about Mr. Quayson. I think it's also about the minority bench, side of the House in general. So that if the majority really expect that the level of cooperation and collaborative work that must happen in Parliament must go on, both sides must be seen not to be putting spanners in the wheels of each other in such a way that affects the kind of relationship that they build and undertake in Parliament. I think it goes beyond Mr. Quayson. It's something that, yes, has the potential to affect or is already affecting the entire minorities bench's willingness to cooperate with the majority, and that certainly has an effect on Parliament. The minority leader, gave some indications today in the House, something that I mentioned earlier that I found to be unfortunate. But if those indications are anything to go by, it means that we are in for some real problems in Parliament going forward.
The numbers game, it will come up certainly, isn't it?
Well, this Parliament is certainly the same as it was from the morning of 7th of January 2021. 138, 137. We know what has played out. We know how caucuses can be punished with just a single member of Parliament being absent. We know what absentee members of Parliament can cause their respective caucuses. So the numbers bit will certainly play out. But for me, it's not more about the numbers bit than it is about the ability for Parliament to be able to play that one cardinal responsibility that it holds, the oversight responsibility, which has been seen as one of the weakest links, in Ghana's Parliament. At least having this 8th Parliament play or show some signs of better oversight is what we are all yearning for. We had very high expectations of this 8th Parliament in that regard. I must say that I have not been fully, satisfied with how much oversight, strength the 8th Parliament has exercised. But we look to see what the coming days and weeks and months hold for us.
Niamadi, the point about, withdrawing the case, you've just heard from the Deputy Attorney General now indicating that there's no confirmation or whatsoever to withdraw the case, and that the hope is that Speaker of Parliament will cooperate with the court. Do you see that happening? And is it even necessary in the first place?
Yes, I see that happening. And maybe I may have to add my voice to humbly say that if they discontinue the case, it would be very good for us. So I see the possibility of that. But I'm also want to say that we are on a curve with our democracy, to the extent that new vistas are being opened, and we must equally open ourselves to that learning curve. But there's so much to learn from what is going on. And that lends credence to legal education, to legal practice, etc., and even for publishing as well. We must go through that learning process. So I don't think that anybody will feel, or the Attorney General should feel beaten or should feel shy or should feel anything of a...
Yeah, but is it really a matter of pride for the Attorney General? This is someone who's been sworn into office as Minister of Justice and the Attorney General. He, must perform the responsibility of delivering justice. Justice should not be selective, you agree?
Sure, nobody stops him from holding his duties. But I'm saying that when you have situations as we have at hand, which can threaten the democracy that we all toiled to build since 1992, then common sense reasons that, look, you can step aside. We all do that.
What's the current requirement of the law? At least we know that some processes are being initiated in Parliament about the bill and the reform. But as the law stands now, dual nationality is not allowed. Correct?
Exactly so. But do Gyakye Quayson hold dual nationality?
That's subject to what? Yeah, no. That's subject to what the court will decide. In what the Supreme Court told us at the time, he was still a dual, citizen. That's the argument.
Yeah, that's the argument as it's been raised. Yes. And I will not want to
go into the merits of the case. Yes, precisely.
The line of what the court will come out. But I'm saying that I mean, the facts as presented to us, I mean, where we stand now, everybody is saying that, look, this is what we'll do. I mean, the country is about the people, and the people are represented by groups. So if chiefs are speaking, if the clergy is speaking, if everybody is saying that, look, this is where our country is, we want to move on with our country, can we let it be? Is that not government for the people, by the people? Is that not what it stands for? So that's my line of argument, that if we fail to listen to the voices of the people, then that sends us into another angle, which would make people think that what has been said is being followed to the latter. And I don't want to see us get there. You see, sometimes too much of the law can muddy the waters. Okay? Too much of the law can muddy the waters. So yes, the law is good. We want to go strictly by the law, but that is not always the case, because if it is not in the interest of the development of our democracy, then I think we should not go that way. And this Gyakye Quayson's case presents us with a different scenarios altogether, which needs a very careful attention to pursue in order to get to a place that, I mean, we don't mess what we thought.
I'll take the thoughts of the two of you on the ongoing processes in Parliament to try and reform our laws for dual nationals. But let's talk about what's different now for James Gyakye Quayson then, who was stripped of all his parliamentary immunities, and James Gyakye Quayson now has been sworn into the House by Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin. What's changing now? I mean, per the requirements of the law and how the trial will proceed. What's the law saying?
So what is changing now is the immunities of a parliamentarian, a member of parliament, where parliamentary work supersedes every other thing. Okay. So in this case, and we all know that criminal trials means that the accused person would have to be in person. You cannot be represented. And therefore, if you have a conflict of being in court and having parliamentary work to do, and the parliamentary immunities covers him, then obviously he will attend to parliament. And if that continues for long, you and I can tell how long this case is going to travel. Okay? And let's not be in haste, because fair trial is not in haste. You have to wait for him to finish first things first principle of attending to parliamentary duties and then responding to the court. And in the event that parliamentary duties continues for long, then obviously you know that the court process will have to wait.
I see.
Particularly in this criminal trial where he ought to be in court in person.
Okay.
And it does not inure to the benefit of parliamentary work. It does not inure to the benefit of the court's time and even the lawyers representing time. Okay. So let's use time. Let's use time wisely. And I think that I would again plead with the process that there is nothing wrong. Nobody feels ashamed or shy or feel beaten or reduced if they file for not possible.
Let's deal with the law, the impending bill before the House, and what the next processes might be. Of course, Samuel, you're aware of the processes in Parliament already, the introduction of a new bill to try and tackle some of these issues, dual citizenship for MPs, just trying to allow some of these political office holders to hold dual citizens. Well, how would that work, and how easily, given the James Gyakye Quayson case and the others that we've seen in the past, how readily will the House work to expedite this impending bill that we have?
Yes, two things here. I see.
No, I'll come to you. I'll come to you shortly, Niyama. Let's start off with Sami, then I'll wrap up with you then on that.
Yes, Blessed. So at least if there is one thing that we have learned, it is the fact that both sides of the House, the majority and minority, are not opposed to that particular bill currently in Parliament. If there is a bill in Parliament around an important matter such as this, and you have both sides, adding them about it because it is the government of the day that is bringing the bill before Parliament. We know that key figures within the party that makes the minority in Parliament have made comments about it and how important it is to have that bill passed. I think that then takes away the challenge of a back and forth in Parliament. But the processes that must take place in Parliament must certainly take place. We know that there is a clearly outlined process on how a bill becomes a law in the Parliament of Ghana. And at this point, I think it is even at a very nascent stage so far as the parliamentary process is concerned. Maybe this particular case will give it some impetus so that some decision can be reached on the matter before the processes for the next election begins.
Do you see that happening in this life of the parliament that we're having now? Hello, Sami. Okay. Sami, I was just asking if you feel this will happen before the life of this parliament expires.
It is very likely. It is very likely.
Okay. Grateful for your time this afternoon on the poll. Sami Obeng, Executive Director for the Parliamentary Network for Africa. Let's wrap up with you, Niamadi. Your final thoughts. You were about speaking on the impending bill before the House. Of course, Sami Obeng indicating that this early days yet, it has a long process to go through. But will that end the mischief you smell here?
Yeah, yes, there are two angles to it. So Parliament will first of all have to resolve the angle of whether dual citizenship is at the filing stage or before nomination. If that is resolved, then that is one thing that ought to be very clear. And then two, whether to allow dual citizenship to dual citizens to run for parliamentary elections. And I think that either way, if they allow dual citizens, if they're able to pass the law to allow dual citizens to run for parliamentary election, then so be it. But if they want to amend what it is now, or as we are made to see it now, I mean 94.2, which talks about allegiance, which we are being equalizing to dual citizenship, then I think that the argument should be at nomination and not at filing. But whichever way you look at the two, I think that one is embedded in one. If we put it at nomination, that then cures the mischief for the Gyakye Quayson's case. If we put it at allowing dual citizens now to contest for as members of parliament, then I think that cures the second one, which is the at nomination level. And I believe that for the urgency of what has happened and for the Gyakye Quayson case as a case study, I think that Parliament will have to collaborate to get this thing sorted once and for all in the life of this Parliament.
I see interesting days ahead. We'll have to leave the conversation here for now. Niamadi, a lawyer with the Coalition for Social Justice, joining us, Center for Social Justice, I should say, joining us in this whole conversation. But there's a lot of politicking happening within the New Patriotic Party. MP for Assin Central, Kennedy Ejapong, also facing the vetting committee of the New Patriotic Party today. He's the first aspirant to be vetted for the second phase of the vetting, which is happening today after former Energy Minister Gyakye Quayson and former General Secretary Kwabena Ejapon, who all had their turns earlier. This brings to the number 6 in terms of aspirants that have been vetted and that have also had their chance to make a case before the committee. And we'll be getting updates for you shortly as activities are underway, but we're taking a short break. When we get back, we'll get to my colleague Samuel Mbura, who's on the grounds for us. Stay with us.